YouTube. Welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, my name is Divine Uche, and I do a lot of video essays and social commentary over whatever it is I feel like talking about that week. So if that's something that interests you, make sure you like this video and make sure you subscribe. Guys, welcome back. Hi besties. mm, I don't know if it's that like school is starting next week, but I'm out of it. I'm out of it. I am a summer girly. I love summer so much. I love the sun on my face. I love not doing work. I love not being confined to school building. So it's like, the fact that school starting soon is like, it's messing up the balance of like myself. Like I am having a incredibly serious issue. Like serious issue that has been victimizing me and has probably been victimizing someone else somewhere else, because I refuse to believe I'm the only one who's having this issue. Every time, and I mean every time, I go on Pinterest, I always see a photo of this little white girl with blue braids in her hair, bro. Like, I don't know what's going on. It's every time. This photo and other photos like it, of white people participating in like wearing black hairstyles, or hairstyles like are more specific to black hair types, are part of a larger concept of black culture and the culture of black Americans kind of becoming more mainstream and kind of becoming more popular culture in general. And this has become like a alarming problem for a lot of black Americans. Like culture of black Americans becoming popular culture takes away its significance to black Americans, to black people. And it's something that is not new, and it's something that we're going to be exploring today. We'll be exploring black culture becoming popular culture through the lens of gentrification, urban flight, and redlining. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Gentrification is the process whereby the character of a poor urban area is changed by wealthier people moving in, improving housing and attracting new businesses, typically displacing current inhabitants in the process. So, gentrification basically is like taking kind of poor, lower socioeconomic classes, poor neighborhoods, and going and like fixing up the areas, kind of renovating houses, renovating streets, and overall improving the environment, but by doing so raising like the property taxes, which can displace inhabitants that can't afford the new taxes or the new prices of those areas. Gentrification is not inherently a bad process. Gentrification is to go in and, like beautify cities, or to make like poorer urban areas better and up to par with the other areas surrounding them, so that there's not more wealth inequality. But by doing so and displacing those inhabitants, those people who can't afford the new prices of those neighborhoods, they're creating even poorer communities and pushing those people who live there out. So gentrification has its upsides and has its downsides. One horrible thing about gentrification here in the US is that it specifically targets people by racial and class lines. A study by the Stanford University found that residents in predominantly non black gentrifying neighborhoods have a broader set of neighborhoods that they move to, while those from black gentrifying areas were relegated to less advantaged neighborhoods and faced fewer options. These options included other largely black neighborhoods or immigrant populated neighborhoods, exacerbating neighborhood inequality by race and class. So when we look at these areas that are predominantly urban and predominantly have less socioeconomic or like class opportunity, those areas tend to be areas that house immigrants, or house black people here in the US, or people who are non-white. And when these areas get gentrified, those people have less of an opportunity to move to bigger areas because they can't afford it. So we see like gentrification solely targets kind of those people by class and by racial lines. So it's a serious issue, and it really does affect black people. And you might be wondering, like, okay, like that isn't solely the fault of gentrification. Like,
it's not the fault of the country that non-white people, immigrants, or black people are the ones who are solely in these like gentrified areas.
Oh, but it is specifically targeted, and this is the goal of gentrification in a lot of places. Well, to further explain this topic, we can go all the way back to 1862 when the US first introduced the Homestead Act. So, the Homestead Act excluded non whites from government housing plans, and it kept them under the threat of what we call redlining, like specifically withholding financial services from certain communities. So, when we go back to the Homestead Act and looking at the way that it affected Black communities, we see that Black people were not allowed to get on government housing and were not allowed any aid from the government, which places them at a significant financial disadvantage going into building these communities and kind of creating a lot of the things that they need to be able to thrive and survive. In the US here, for people who are not like naturally born in the US and immigrate over here, communities and being like surrounded by people of your same culture is how their culture kind of grows and develops. So, one good example is kind of like Chinatowns. When people move over here from different Asian communities and they settle in these areas, they're able to kind of rebuild and grow their culture here in their host country. That's how we get Chinatowns, which are full of like Chinese culture, but it's here in the US. So, Black people, especially after slavery, were kind of struggling to create their own communities and rebuild their culture after this devastating act of slavery, which sought mostly to remove Black people away from the culture of places they come from, like West Africa, and exclude them, making them feel less than and taking away their cultural identity. One such place that we can talk about when looking at kind of the move to remove Black people from their culture is Greenwood, Tulsa, and the Black Wall Street Massacre. So, Greenwood, Tulsa was a place in which a lot of Black people were settling and creating booming businesses and kind of building their culture around each other. When Black people were around each other in this way, they were able to build businesses, build culture, kind of thrive like with music, and be able to build like cultural traits that can become distinctively their own. However, because of the racial hatred and the tense of that time, a lot of Ku Klux Klan members and people who hated Black people came and burned Black Wall Street, Greenwood, Tulsa, to the ground, destroying cultural traits and the cultural values that were thriving in that area. Because of redlining and urban flight, which is where a lot of white people would move out of communities that Black people were moving into, we see that these communities that are now becoming largely Black are also being neglected government aid and are becoming poor communities. So now, when we're coming in years and decades later to gentrify these communities are purposely Black and purposely immigrant. And when gentrifying these communities, the people who have been put at a racial and financial disadvantage for years now cannot afford the new prices of the community and are forced to find even poorer places to continue to settle in order to have houses, in order to have jobs. After slavery, the actual chaining of Black people became illegal, but the goal since then was to keep Black people mentally in chains and to stop them from creating a culture that would strengthen them and create a culture that would encourage unity and them coming together, because the goal has always been to keep Black people down systematically in order to run the American system. A Black culture is becoming popular culture. It's not by coincidence. It is something that is systematic, and it's something that is being done on purpose in order to stop Black people from creating a culture that is their own here in the US. When we look at like the effects of urban flight and redlining, the things that have been done to Black people, putting them in these poor communities, force Black people to create their culture around struggle, around poverty, around things of that nature, which is so prevalent and is so kind of tied with Black culture here in the US to a lot of people. Like, a lot of people associate like the hustle and like being more urban and more street with Black culture and being Black in the US. And this is something that has been so perpetuated that it has extended to not only here in the US, but it's global and it's worldwide. And it's something that is kind of a stereotype with Black people, like being from like hood or different areas and talking a certain way, looking a certain way, like that to a lot of people is what a Black person here in the US is supposed to look like. And a lot of Black people who have been kept in those communities and have been perpetuated with this standard for so long continue to encourage it in other Black people. One thing that I wrote, or like that I thought about a lot while writing up the notes for this video, was that Black culture and has like it's a relationship between like Black people and Black culture and pop culture here in the US. And what I've kind of phrased it by is that Americans love Black culture, but they hate Black people. So it's all about separating Black people from their culture, using their culture, but putting down Black people. It's where we see it a lot in music. Like a lot of non Black artists will kind of have like a phase where they use very like urban coded language, and they use a lot of AAVE or African American Vernacular English. They want to kind of portray this look of looking more street with a lot of like things that are associated with Black culture without necessarily interacting with or hanging around Black people. And if they do, it's for like that time in their career until they feel like it's not useful for them anymore. When being urban and being street is like in per se, like quote unquote, when it's in, like when it's cool, that's when people like it and want to use it. And when it's not cool anymore, that's when they drop it, which is where a lot of people have kind of this issue when it comes to like wearing Black hairstyles and participating in Black culture. It's something that a lot of non-Black people want to do when it's in, but when it's not in anymore, it's not cool. And people drop the culture and like it's not a culture that is specific to people. So it's interesting. It's an interesting relationship between culture here in America and like elements of Black culture becoming popular culture without recognizing the people behind it. So it's like the stripping of that cultural importance in terms of it just being cool. And it's something that Black Americans have struggled with for decades, like building a culture that is their own when everything that they do that is good, the system and white Americans here in the US seek to undermine that and use it kind of as something to continuously set people down. Maybe that didn't make sense, but I'll give an example. So, a big stereotype here in the US is that like Black people like to like eat watermelon or something like that, and it's like bad. That actually has ties in when Black people, Black Americans used to dominate the watermelon trade and used to be great watermelon farmers in the US and were making profit off of it and becoming incredibly rich. White people didn't like this, so they decided to kind of perpetuate the stereotype of Black people and watermelon to deter Black people from the watermelon trade. So you see, like a lot of the things, like when Black people do good for themselves, the system and white Americans and people here in the US will seek to turn that around to further keep Black people down. So, like I was saying before, like kind of the to sum up the situation, it's loving Black cultural traits, but placing Black people down and adopting the traits to kind of bury Black culture, if that makes sense. It's through the gentrification of neighborhoods and putting Black people in these systematically poor neighborhoods to create a culture around struggle and a culture around poverty and things of that nature. It's using gentrification to push Black people out of good neighborhoods and into even poorer communities. And it's taking elements of Black culture and making them popular culture, thereby losing their significance and turning them into something that is more American culture and enjoyed by the majority instead of recognizing the people and the struggle behind it. So I like to end every video by continuously talking about what it is that we can do to stop the topic in which I talked about today, which is like gentrification and stripping away the culture of Black people. And one thing that's super important, like whether you're Black or non-Black, is to always like appreciate the culture of other people and like know where it comes from, because culture grows and culture thrives when it has significance. Like when there is a significance behind why you do something, it gives you even like greater pride and it continues to contribute to your culture. So it's all about being respectful to other people and continuing to appreciate others' culture. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was very informative. I hope I wasn't too all over the place. Um, for next week's video, I probably want to do something different because school's starting back up again and also my birthday. Like, my birthday? Like, my birthday is almost here, so I'll be on the lookout for that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.